Hello, exceptional thinkers. Mainly Facts is excited to welcome you back. Ready for today's magic? Let's unravel the wonders that await. Story 1. Am I the a-hole for not accepting my sister's relationship with my ex despite her having cancer as a teenager? My 25 female father married my stepsister's 23 female mother when I was 4 and she was 3. We lived together most of our lives and are a family. She and I were extremely close. She developed cancer when she was 14 and was sick for about 2 years. She's since made a full recovery. During that time, my parents became understandably overprotective. They also asked a lot of me. I quit my extracurriculars so I could get a job, the money went towards her medical bills, and so I could drive her to appointments. I didn't go to dances, and any fun activities I did needed to include her. I did almost all of this willingly, the exception being having to quit my high school volleyball team. I did throw a bit of a tantrum about that, but was swiftly punished. And I think having one emotional breakdown was pretty chill given the circumstances. Anyhow, I go to college and meet my ex, we'll call him Ben, when I'm a junior. We fell in love, blah blah blah. He and I move in together when we graduate, so we've been living together for about 3 years. We were serious until July when I walked into my bedroom and saw him effing my sister. I broke it off. Tears were shed, he moved out, etc. My sister apologized at first, but then backed off. I thought she was giving me space, but last week she called and asked if we could meet up. She told me that she and Ben were in love and were just telling me as a courtesy before they started posting photos online. Distraught, I left her in the restaurant by herself and did not pay my portion of the bill. She later Venmo'd me asking for the money. She told my parents, who then called me to their house telling me how disappointed in me they are for not supporting my sister's relationship with Ben. They brought up the fact that because she had cancer as a teenager, she never learned proper social etiquette and has a hard time meeting people. I don't buy this, in part because I've seen her socialize just fine, and since we spent a good chunk of the time she was sick together, that would also mean that I should have bad social skills as well by that logic. They then told me that I don't accept my sister and Ben's relationship, they may have to go no contact with me. I reminded them that I'm also their daughter and they should understand my point of view, but they are adamant that this is about me being jealous of her. For the record, I'm not jealous of her. I'm not upset that Ben picked her over me. I'm sad about the end of the relationship and do feel betrayed, but Lord knows that I don't want to be with a cheater. What I'm upset about is the fact that my sister chose Ben over me, that she slept with Ben knowing he and I were in a long-term committed relationship and continues to be with him knowing how much it hurts me. Now, no one in my immediate family is talking to me, and I'm getting messages from aunts and uncles and cousins telling me that I'm an a-hole and a selfish bee. Update. Sometimes you can only laugh. Just got off the phone with my cousin who saw this post and said he could explain a few things. I asked him why he was on Reddit instead of school, he asked me why I was on Reddit instead of work, and I said, touché. He told me that after my conversation with my mom, she went to his house and talked to my aunt, and here's the deal. Turns out my sister is not only in a relationship with Ben, but 4 months pregnant, which means she and Ben were effing for longer than I'd even guessed. Apparently my parents are so adamant that I forgive her because I'm already ruining their experience of first grandchild. That's right, I'm less important than my stepmom posting ultrasounds to Facebook. This is where we're at. Anyhow, I called out of work sick the rest of the day and I'm going to drink a lot of alcohol, like a lot of alcohol, and then start thinking about what the F I'm going to do. First things first, best advice I can give you, she's already clearly gone and drank all the alcohol, and I can't blame her. I would probably do the same in that situation. It's not the healthiest choice, but it's an understandable choice. I will say the best thing you can do, the best revenge, is a life well lived. But also, God, that sucks. That sucks so bad. It's not just your sister, but you've been friends since you were little kids. It's family. And cheating on you with him for 4 months. So, I think that forgiveness can be achieved eventually, But the fact that they're expecting the person posting this to just be okay with things and forgive them so soon is ridiculous. That's just completely disregarding her emotions and totally gross. And frankly, given that, basically her sister betrayed her and this Ben guy betrayed her, I don't think she has to, be okay with it ever. That's just, it's not cool. If she wants to forgive him, cool. But if not, the rest of the family being like, you're being a real a-hole. No, screw off, rest of the family. To the person posting this, good Lord. I don't know. I hope you find some people who actually value you the way that you deserve to be valued. Story 2. I don't care if you're living here, my daughter wants to rent. As with many folks, I don't think I had anything to contribute here, but when I actually read the sign on our front door for the first time in a few months, I remembered a good one. My wife and I moved to Mississippi after getting married. She's a native and I'm from out of state. We met online and had the wedding in my hometown. She had a full ride and assistantship at Mississippi State, so it didn't make sense to have her give that up. We were fortunate in that her grandfather had an extra property he wasn't using, and he lets us stay there rent-free. It's a crap shack in the middle of the woods that was built by an idiot who has no business playing with Legos, much less building an actual structure, but hey, it's free! I can only complain so much. My wife's schedule varies greatly day by day, which saw her alone at the house while I was working when the entitled mother showed up. EM entitled mother, W wife, GIL, grandfather-in-law. So my wife is hanging out in the living room doing some work before she has to leave for class when she hears someone drive up. Our house is really out of the way, so we don't get guests. She was going to get her handgun when she saw a slightly older lady walk by the window. Not seeing a threat, she went and answered the door when the knock came. Wife, can I help you? Yes, I wanted to talk about renting this place for my daughter. Oh, sorry, but me and my husband are living here. Well, my daughter is in college and needs a place to stay. Well, that's great and all, but like I said, I live here. Well, I was hoping to talk to grandfather-in-law. No, the house isn't for... I know him personally, you see, and I wanted to talk to him about renting. I don't care if you know him. Your daughter can't stay here. My husband and I live here. What aren't you getting about that? Young lady, I'm sure grandfather-in-law won't appreciate that you're talking to me like this. I'm sure my grandfather won't give a damn that I told you your daughter is going to have to find another place to live. Entitled mom looks shocked at the mention that grandfather-in-law is actually my wife's grandfather and she wasn't some random squatter living in this house. She huffs, turns on her heel, and goes back to her car. My wife goes back inside and uses a sturdy note card to create a sign that is taped to our door to this day. We are not and will not be renting. Management. Edit. Getting a lot of questions about why my wife went to grab her gun. We live in a very isolated area outside a small, poor town. You have to go out of your way to get to our house, and the only people who visit us are our in-laws. They do so very rarely and always call before coming. Someone driving up to our house is suspicious for these reasons. We're not preparing to take shots at the first sign of movement. We're just being prepared in case the worst comes about. The worst coming about being the in-laws coming to visit. Hey, am I right? Sorry. No, I mean, yeah, I'm not a gun person. I'm not comfortable around them, even though I grew up in a house that had more guns than people by a wide margin. But I don't care for them. But I think if I lived in a little shack in the middle of nowhere and stuff, even I might be tempted. I mean, at the very least, a crossbow, right? And yeah, people just like, no, I want to be renting. I don't care that you live here. I don't think you'll, like, what? Shut up. If you want to talk to him about renting, go to him and talk to him about renting. Don't just go to the place and be like, yes, I shall have this. Begone, peasant. Story 1. Am I the a-hole for telling my in-laws exactly where my husband was when I was in labor? I gave birth to my son 10 weeks ago. I went through an exhausting period while I was nearing my due date. I was experiencing discomfort and wanted my husband by my side when I went into labor, but he'd go out every night to hang out at his friend's place and watch football games. I suggested that he play/watch games at home, just in case, but he was having none of it and said he had to attend game night at his brother and friend's place along with his buddies. He said there were certain, how can I describe it, rituals when watching a game, and he can't enjoy doing it at home or anywhere else. The night of our son's birth, my water broke while my husband was at his buddy's place watching a game. I called him and told him to get home and take me to the hospital. He said he was coming, but he didn't. I ended up calling my sister, she lives nearby, and she took me to the hospital. My husband showed up 2 hours later after he kept calling asking if I was still in labor and that he was almost done watching the game. He was able to make it on time for our son's birth, but I was furious with him, mad and disappointed. He apologized profoundly and has been working on regaining my trust and respect for him after what he's done. He's otherwise very supportive and involved in our son's care. Last night I was at my in-laws' house for dinner and we were talking about my son's birth date. My husband suddenly started recalling what happened that night and basically started lying about driving me to the hospital, waiting and feeling stressed out, and standing on his feet for so long without food or even water. I was confused, and I said no, none of this was true, none of this happened. In fact, he was watching a game when I went into labor, and I wanted him to drive me to the hospital, but he didn't show up till 2 hours later. My mother-in-law, who takes no crap from anybody, and whom everyone fears, lost it on him, asking if that was true, and he kept quiet. She started berating him left and right, telling him to sit down and shut up when he stood up to argue, then told him to stand up when he was sitting arguing. Everyone was laughing at how she basically treated him as if he was a boy in trouble. She kept saying, "Shame, shame, shame to you. This is not how I raised my children to treat their wives. Jordan, you are a disgrace, and I'm disappointed because of what I heard about you." He literally swallowed every bit of his mother's berating and didn't say anything till we got home, where he went nuts, saying I made him look neglectful, a bad husband and father, by telling the family about where he was, and said I shouldn't have said anything, but I argued it wasn't okay for him to lie and play hero in front of his parents. He said I just caused a rift between him and family and asked if I was happy now. Am I the a-hole? Should I not have said anything? You didn't make your husband look like a neglectful husband and father. He did. He did that by being a neglectful husband and father. It's that easy. He's the one who did it. You just revealed that when he lied about it. That's his fault. His embarrassment in front of his mom is his fault. And yes, you have said that he is working on regaining your trust and all that. Good for him. I hope he does a good job and can realize where he made his mistakes. But until he does, even if he does all that, he still gets to live with the truth of what he did, and now the rest of his family gets to know the truth. I'm sorry, you're not an a-hole at all for doing this. He's an a-hole, and now he gets to live with that and try and make up for it. Story 2. My family warned me I was dating a gold digger and I ignored them. 10 years later, I see they were right. I, now 35 male, met my wife Annabelle, now 34 female, when we were in college. My family was lower middle class and I was hustling to make sure student loans didn't kill me post-graduation. At first, everything seemed great. She was truly my rock through some really hard times. I struggle with anxiety and depression as well as imposter syndrome. She had her own struggles too. I thought we fit well. My parents and sister always told me that while she seemed nice enough, something was off. This only increased when Annabelle dropped out of college and shared her plans to become a housewife/stay-at-home mom one day, so she didn't need a degree. Back then, there was no guarantee that I would have a high-paying job, but I also didn't mind her staying home with our future kids. Then I got an offer for my dream job, 6 figures, company car, travel, the works. They'd also pay for me to obtain my master's, something that seemed out of reach considering I was drowning in student loan debt. I could finally move out of my parents' house and get one of my own. I used part of my signing bonus to buy an engagement ring for Annabelle. Because I began dating her prior to the money, I never imagined that she was with me for anything else. She loved me when I was a broke college student. We had planned our future back then. How was it different? My family tried to point out the red flags. Annabelle planned an over-the-top expensive wedding. She wanted the biggest house she could find. My signing bonus was drained rather quickly, and I was worried about not saving enough. I constantly told her to slow down. We don't need the best of everything. And she would, for a while, then it'd pick up again. We had 2 children together who are now 8 and 4. The big spending got worse when they came along, but again, I was okay with it. I was making good money, we could afford it. Annabelle grew up in a similar situation as me, so I figured she just wanted to spoil the kids. Then, I got laid off from my job. It was out of nowhere. The field I'm in has slowly begun to dwindle over the years. I stayed on as long as I could, but at this point, the company is going under. Annabelle was worried when I relayed the news, but I informed her that we had our savings, we'd be okay until I found work again. I was hired at a new company in a similar but different field within a month. The catch, I'm making significantly less. It's enough to live off of, we can stay in our house, but things need to change. I pointed that our kids can't go to private school anymore. We can't take multiple lavish trips a year, no more frivolous spending. She wasn't happy, but again, I gave her grace. It's a big adjustment, even for me. Just 2 months after I started at my new job, Annabelle came to me and said, "I don't think I can do this anymore." I was taken off guard, and we had several discussions that amounted to her taking the kids to be with her mother while we took a break. I already knew our marriage was over. No one can come back from a break unscathed. Sure enough, a few weeks after she moved out, she told me she wanted a divorce. She claimed we had grown apart, said I worked too many hours at my last job and I was never around. While it's true, I did work a lot. I was home every night for dinner. We had all of the weekend together. I traveled often, but she always came with me until our oldest started elementary school. She never complained about a damn thing. In fact, I once said I was tired from working a long week and I felt guilty that she was home alone with 2 kids, but she assured me she was happy. I asked her several times if it was about me losing money. She denied it up and down. She married me so young and needed to see what was out there. She put it all on me. Naively, I told myself that this was what happened when you marry your college sweetheart. You grow apart. I didn't want to believe that my entire marriage had been a lie. Within 2 weeks of filing for divorce, she was with someone new. The reality came crashing down. She tried to play it off as they just so happened to meet, but they moved fast. She was moving in with him within 3 months. They were engaged before our divorce was even final. This guy is a surgeon. He makes 6 figures a year. I don't know if the cheating began when I got laid off or before. I suppose it doesn't matter. We're divorced now. Due to my schedule, I only see my kids every weekend, and I hate it. I regret not making Annabelle sign a prenup as she got half of everything. My family's aware that she moved on, and I know they have their suspicions, but we've never spoken about it. In the 3 years since the divorce, they've never uttered, "I told you so," even though I deserve it. I went from loving Annabelle to despising her. I love my children very much, but I hate that I wasted 10 years on a woman who only wanted me for my money. I should have saved so much more, but she either squandered it on useless junk when we were married or took half in the divorce. God, I hate her. I feel really bad for this person because, yeah, it does really seem like she was just kind of in it for the money that he was providing. And granted, sure, there probably was love there at the beginning, and, maybe they did grow apart. Maybe there were other problems, and this was just what finally made her pull the trigger, but that doesn't make it okay with how she handled things and when she handled it, blaming him for working too much when she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, which is challenging in its own right, but still, when there's just one person making all the money and you want a lifestyle with all these vacations and a big house, you're kind of asking the other person to do more work. So it's unfair that she put all that on him. And even if there were other reasons for them growing apart, I'm not okay with the way that she handled things, at least from the perspective we're given. So I hope that this person is able to find someone who kind of moves their speed and they can be happier with, but you just hate to hear it. Story 1. My 28 female colleague, 30 female, didn't invite me to her wedding, and it's completely unraveled our friendship. One of my work colleagues is a lifelong friend of mine. We lived on the same street growing up, we went to the same school, and when I needed a job after graduating university, she made me aware of an opening at the company she worked at. I applied, got the job, and it's been quite a few years since, and we still work together. It's a pretty small company and quite male-dominated, so after we started working together, we became really close. We take all our lunches together, we regularly stop by each other's desks for a chat, and we quickly became known around the office as inseparable. A few years ago, she got engaged to her long-term partner, and I was ecstatic for her. She had a really tough time a couple of years ago, two family deaths close together, and I did everything I could to be a good friend to her while she was in the worst stages of grieving. She cried with me daily for weeks, and I made sure she knew I was always available to listen. I also took about a third of her workload off her voluntarily so she could take days off when she needed to without stressing about her work building up. So now that life has gotten better for her and she's always smiling and excited, it's really nice to see. Ever since she got engaged, as expected, she's talked a lot about wedding plans, especially at our lunches. I know basically every detail. When she booked her venue, she was really excited, but she refused to tell me where it was going to be, saying that she wanted it to be a surprise when the invitations came out. The wedding is 2 weeks away now, and I've long since stopped waiting for my invitation to show up. I know when they were sent because she told me all about delivering them and shows me every day the gifts people have started to buy off their registry. I feel silly for saying it, but the more I think about it, the more hurt I feel that I haven't been included. It's a big wedding, and she's invited some other people from work that I didn't know she was even close to. She hasn't mentioned the reason why I'm not invited, and at this point I feel too awkward to ask. I guess it's just a slap in the face because I really thought we were close, and now I'm realizing that maybe we're not. The trouble is, since all this started, I've started to really examine our friendship, and I'm wondering if she even cares about me at all. I can think of 100 examples of where I've helped her work through decisions, listened to her vent, stood up for her when she's had issues with colleagues, etc. Even tons of little things, like if anyone brings in cake and she's out of the office, I always save her a slice so she doesn't miss out, but I can't remember a time that she did anything for me in return. Now when she talks to me, I've realized she doesn't even listen to me. When I finish talking, she just carries on with what she was saying before, almost as if I'd never spoken at all. If we're ever talking about me or something I've been doing, she never has anything to say. She just kind of nods and then switches the conversation back to herself. I'm starting to think she couldn't care less about me. She just likes having someone around who she can talk to, and whoever that person is doesn't really matter to her. I've invested so many years into this friendship. It's really cut me deep. I feel used. It's also made being at work incredibly lonely because she was my only friend. I've stopped having lunch with her, and anytime she tries to chat, I politely bring the conversation to a quick end and go back to work. She doesn't appear to have even noticed. I do still wish her well. I'm still glad for her that life has turned around and she's so happy, but I'm a bit lost. I'm not sure if I'm being too harsh because I'm hurt, or if I even have the right to feel hurt in the first place, as I know weddings have a finite number of guests, and you have to leave people out that you would invite in an ideal world, but I'm not sure there's any way back from this either. Has anyone else had a similar experience? Am I being unreasonable or overdramatic? Should I just let the dust settle and see how I feel then? Talk to her would be the only advice I really have, because maybe she does value you as a friend, but doesn't realize the things that she's doing and would take steps to change that if she knew. Some people just don't necessarily realize that they're kind of hogging the friendship real estate, to put it in a bad way. But seriously, I would say talk to her. Also, you might mention like, hey, I didn't get an invitation to the wedding. Just wanted to check, like you can ask if you're friends, you can ask. And she might be like, what? No, I gave you your invitation, right? I swear I gave you, like, she might think in her head that you have an invitation and you're just not addressing it. And absolutely, bringing some of this stuff up might be uncomfortable. And the answers might actually be bad. Like, she might be like, oh, I didn't really invite you. I didn't think you'd want to go. And you'd be like, oh, I really am not that good of friends. Like, yeah, there are definitely possible bad answers to this. However, It's important to have good communication in any relationship. I know I normally bring that up when it comes to romantic relationships, but even in friendship and family relationships, communication is important. Story 2. My 19-year-old sister is getting married to her high school teacher. My younger sister is getting married to her 36-year-old high school teacher in a few days, and everyone seems okay with it. She graduated a year ago, and they told us they were dating almost immediately after the graduation. I was shocked and angry, but everyone around me was happy and supportive of them. The teacher divorced his wife 2 years ago and started paying attention to my sister. He spoke to her after class regularly and paid special attention to her studies. I thought this was weird and talked to my sister about this, but she told me he was helping her because she was the best student of her class, which she was. A few months ago, only a few months into dating, they announced they were engaged. I tried to talk to my parents about their age difference and stuff, but they didn't want to hear it. I talked to my sister and she told me she's happy and that she loves him. We live in a small town with a tight-knit community and everyone else is supporting their marriage. I'm feeling useless right now and I'm angry at myself. I was unable to protect my sister. I feel like I failed my duties as an older sibling. I hate everyone around me. How do they not see what's going on here? Yeah, I want to try and be supportive of relationships where there is an age gap, but not a relationship that started where one of them was clearly an adult and one was not an adult, and what the adult also was in a position of authoritative power over the other person, clearly when the relationship started. That's not okay. I'm not comfortable with that. Like, if he happened to be a teacher in the school that she went to and she graduated and some odd years later they reconnected and made a relationship, that might be one thing. But it's right at she graduates and it's like, by the way, we're dating. And then months later, we're engaged. And oh yeah, he's 17 years older than me. I'm not okay with that. It's just skeevy. There's... Ugh. No. To this person, the town you live in is ridiculous. Get out. Story 3. You want proof that my fiance is sick? You got it. I, 25 female, am engaged to my fiance Joey, 26 male. He recently had surgery on his leg and hip, but there were complications and he's been sick and weak since. We try not to ask for help, but this has put a big financial strain on us, to the point where we've spent our wedding savings on his recovery. We're fine with this because if we need to have a courthouse wedding, we're cool with it. We just want him to be healthy. But we did set up a temporary donation page to help with some of the expenses. A friend of mine, Carla, 25 female, donated $10 about a month ago, and I reached out to her to thank her. Last week, we posted an update, not asking for more money, but just to let people know that Joey had another setback and the doctors are creating an all-new treatment plan for him. Carla commented publicly and said the following: I'm beginning to question if he has actually been sick this long, or if y'all are just trying to get more money for your wedding. Who takes this long to recover from surgery, especially when you're an athlete? I said, I'm very offended and appalled that you would accuse us of faking anything. Maybe you're just having a bad day or a moment of bad judgment, but how shamefully low of you. She replied, I want my donation back unless you can show proof that he's sick, in a hospital bed or sitting in a doctor's office, anything. I sent her $10 to get her off our backs, but I also sent her a video, with Joey's approval, the proof she asked for. One of the concerns Joey has had is that he will get severely nauseous if he eats protein, which is what he's supposed to be doing, and when he overexerts himself, which he does sometimes. I sent her a video of him dry heaving into an emesis bag in the middle of PT. Now, one of his doctors asked us to record his physical therapy so they can see the progression of him not feeling well to hopefully make some adjustments. So I didn't take this video just to send to Carla, but to me it seemed like solid proof since she was asking for it. She said, what the hell? I have emetophobia. I didn't know this. And this just triggered me so bad. I hope you're happy with yourself. I feel like I've been traumatized. I said, so now you have $10 more to process this trauma in therapy. Hey, Carla, don't donate money if you're gonna be an absolute a-hole about it. Like, seriously, if you're gonna be like questioning people and like, How is it taking this long? Show me the proof. Blah, blah, blah. Like, then just don't send the money, okay? If you're gonna be, like, mean about it and gross, don't send it. Just don't, all right? They can get donations from better people out there. You sound miserable. So just, and why would you do that in, like, the public comments and stuff? And just people who think they know all about, like, health and medical stuff, and they're like, it shouldn't take this long to recover. What, from what? What do you know? Like, were you there? Were you reading his charts and stuff? Are you a Dr. Carla? No? Then shut up! Story 1. Worried my 28 female, father 60 male will include my teenage diary in father of the bride speech. Hey all, I'd say I usually have a pretty good relationship with my father, but something is bothering me and I'm not sure if I'm overreacting/overthinking it or not. Would appreciate your thoughts on what to do next. A few months ago, my father found a couple of pages of an old diary I'd written when I was around 13 when he was clearing out the attic. He mentioned some snippets on the phone, and it was typical cringy teenage girl stuff. A first boyfriend was mentioned, etc. He was laughing, but I was really embarrassed. Usually I can take a joke, but I couldn't really laugh at this because I was mortified. He'd left them on the kitchen counter, so my sister had seen them too. I asked him to bring the pages round to my house. When I did, I took them off him and threw them straight in the bin. I didn't even want to look at what I'd written, and I thought that was the end of it. But then, last week, my sister mentioned that she'd seen the diary pages in the house again. She still lives at home. It turns out that my father had actually handed me a shopping list when he came round to my house, so the diary pages hadn't been put in the bin as I'd thought. I'm really upset about this, to be honest, and now I'm worried that my father is holding on to these pages because he intends to mention them in his speech when I get married later this year. I've been very clear with him that I really do not want this to happen, but he's just laughed it off. And now that I found out he tricked me by keeping the pages, I'm very concerned that this might be his plan. I'm trying to see the humor in it and tell myself it wouldn't be the worst thing ever. I haven't written anything terrible in those pages, but I'm getting pretty stressed about this. What do you think I should do next, if anything? So, my answer is going to be communicate. You need to actually talk with him and make it very clear, like, no, this is really embarrassing, please don't. Because that kind of sounds like people are like, no, don't tickle me, stop, ha ha ha. And people keep tickling you until you finally go, stop it! Like, you need to make it very clear, like, Dad, I need you to understand. If you show those to anyone and I find out, or if you dare to read it at my wedding, I will be so upset that I will probably not want to talk to you for months. I cannot stress how serious this is. As funny as you may find it, it genuinely upsets me. Like, I think that's the best thing you can do is just lay it out that flatly, because it's fine that you are not comfortable with that being read. Like, if you were comfortable and was just like, oh my God, how cringy, let's all have a laugh at it, fine, but you're justified in not wanting that crap heard. I would not want stuff that I wrote in journals when I was 13 read aloud. Ugh, absolutely not. So, yeah, just talk and be very clear. And if he still does it, follow through. Be like, hey, get out of the wedding now. I'm actually mad at you. Like, lay down boundaries. And if he crosses them, consequences. Hey folks, this story actually has a brief talk about an attempted taking of someone's own life to some degree. And so if you are uncomfortable hearing about that, just scroll to the time code that my editors put on screen here to skip to the next story. Story 2. I saved a woman's life. I wish I hadn't. A stranger waited for us to walk in front of her car before she shot herself in the chest. We thought it was a firecracker until she started screaming to call 911. I had to stop the bleeding with my jacket until the EMTs arrived. She had left a 3-page note on the dashboard of her car. The police questioned us for hours before we were allowed to leave. Police said I saved her life. My wife says I'm a hero. But I don't feel like a hero. In fact, I'm angry. There's no way that woman didn't see us before pulling the trigger. She knew at the very least that 2 strangers would be forced to watch her die. She victimized us. My wife feels incredibly guilty, unsafe, jumpy. I trust people left. less. My heart stops at the slightest popping sound or the faintest smell of sulfur. I go to that parking lot because that's where our post office is and irrationally think, who's going to shoot themselves in front of me this time? Both my wife and I are struggling with our OCD, and I know it's petty, but that was my favorite jacket, and now it's in some medical waste incinerator. I can't even get a replacement because I know it will remind us of her. I wish I had kept walking. I'm certainly less likely to intervene the next time I see an emergency unfold. I want to believe that the attempt was genuine and she simply experienced instant regret, but too many details indicate it was a calculated ploy for some kind of validation. At best, I feel thankful that I don't have anyone in my life who would do something so selfish. I feel pity for the people who know her who were addressed in her 3-page letter. At worst, I feel guilty for thinking anything bad about someone clearly so desperate. But she didn't just hurt herself, she hurt everyone involved, including 2 people just trying to get dinner. Alright, so there's a lot of heavy stuff going on here. The first thing I'd like to say is I don't think that you regret saving her life, because the alternative is if you didn't try to save her life, then you would have just witnessed someone taking their own life, and I think that would have been just as traumatic, if not more traumatic. The other thing I'll say is, don't necessarily think that it is a ploy for some kind of validation. There is evidence out there that a lot of people who attempt to take their own life, if it does not work, they feel instant regret. Or even if it is working, they will panic and feel regret. I'm not going to go into any details, but regretting attempting to take your own life when it doesn't immediately happen is not at all unusual. And so I don't think this person was necessarily trying to take a ploy. Part of their mind might have thought they were really, really trying to do this. There's so much going on here. And yeah, it is a selfish sort of thing. And I don't want to, condemn people who are doing this. They are dealing with stuff that I can't possibly imagine. But yeah, it is really, really harsh. There's nothing good about it. Please, if you're struggling with thoughts of this stuff, or if you're struggling with seeing someone who has attempted or taken their own life or something, please, please, please talk to someone you trust. And if you possibly can, seek professional help, because it's a really, really tough thing to get through. Story 1. My girlfriend of 2 years has acquired 3 animals in the span of 12 months, and I am tired. Hi, I'm Kai, 27 male, 5'7", 200 pounds, muscular but loves pasta. Here's my dilemma. I moved in with my partner approximately this time last year. When I met her, she already had a golden retriever and a cat. She went to purchase another cat whilst I was away for an extended period of work, saying that her current cat, Mobro, was lonely. Months down the track, on March 23rd, she says that her golden retriever is lonely and needs a buddy. After some heated arguments and constant questions, we came across a small cavoodle who is now best buds with the golden retriever. This was sufficient for me, and to be frank, just enough to not be ticking over my threshold and capacity for shared care of the animals of whom she would claim it if, the heavens forbid, we ever broke up. Now, come November 2023, her sister, who is now a golden retriever breeder, has encouraged my girlfriend to take one of her puppies to expand the business and utilize the pup as a stud/breeding dog. After expressing to my partner that it's her intent, no, our intent, to settle down and have a family, and with dogs being a 8 to 15 year commitment with lots of dedicated time and financial investment, we would struggle with 5 animals whilst trying to raise a kid. I'm now facing the mental repercussions of needing to wake up early every day to clean. Mind you, I wake up at 5 o'clock, clean for half an hour, which usually involves picking up fecal matter, mopping, sweeping in mixed order prior to leaving the house to drive an hour to work, before coming home at around 1700 to again, then clean, feed the animals. I'm kind of miserable. I've tried to discuss potentially returning the puppy to her sister whilst it's quite young and able to be adopted by another family, so her parents who come to visit us quite often. This has not gone anywhere but the response of, "I love my animals, I would never." Don't get me wrong, I don't hate dogs or cats, but I feel over-encumbered with the amount of animals I have to be partially responsible for. I'm stuck. I'm starting to feel miserable about my life. I'm tired. What can I do? So I absolutely love animals. My partner and I both do. We have 2 dogs and 2 cats. I know I mostly just talk about the dogs and everything, but the cats are here too. They're nice. And they're a lot of work. And we have no plans to have kids. Like, if we also had to have kids on top of that, whew. And the only reason that we're able to easily take care of them is because we both work from home. And so we have the time to do all of that. It's a lot. And the fact that you're having to do all of this cleaning and all this other stuff, like, if she's the one that wanted the animals, is she not also pitching in with this? I don't like that. And also, when people move in together, there have to be understandings and compromise. And if one partner's like, I want more and more animals, and the other partner's like, I can't personally handle that, you need to kind of respect that. And it doesn't sound like she is. And I don't blame you for being stressed, so I'd have some very open and candid conversations about how this is too much for you and you're struggling with it. And if nothing can be reached about that, I don't know what you do. I mean, I have ideas, but I don't want to say it because it seems kind of sad and mean. So, I mean, it's breaking up, but then you don't get to be around the dogs, and that's terrible. Get the dogs. Story 2. I found my father's confession letter 9 years after his death. I am in tears. My father passed away 9 years ago due to a combination of health complications. I didn't keep much of his things after I cleaned out his apartment. The only thing I took was a fire-safe lockbox. I was afraid to open it because my dad's apartment was filled with a lot of things that I wasn't expecting. Yesterday, while organizing my closet, I couldn't stop staring at the box, and for the first time, I opened it. At the top were a bunch of expired credit cards and bank statements. At the very bottom was a manila envelope. I opened it up, and it contained a picture of a toddler that looked like me but wasn't, and a 2-page letter in his handwriting. The first page was more or less information about his life that I already knew. The second page is what got me. The boy in the picture was my older brother that I never knew about. In the letter, he confessed to me that he and the mother had decided that she would raise the boy in another state. My older brother and his mother, according to the letter, died a year after that picture was taken in a car accident. He never mentally recovered or truly grieved. He met my mom a year and a half after my brother's death, and they got married within the next year. I understand now why my dad had such a hard time showing me affection for so long and why he fell into bad habits he had helped shorten his life. He was a man in pain not only from his traumatic childhood, that's a whole other post, but losing your firstborn son. I haven't cried this much in years. It brought out the suppressed tears and pain I felt for losing him years ago. How I wish he had told me all of this while he was living, and how I could have helped if possible. Despite it all, I love my dad. I miss him, and I finally have some clarity and closure on why he was the way he was. I just wanted to get this off my chest. That's pretty heartbreaking, to know that he was living with that, but never letting it out. And, I'm certain it does explain things about him. And it makes you wonder about all the things, the people you've met in your life that you don't know what they might be quietly holding on to that is affecting them. Now, granted, this is never an excuse if they are abusive or anything like that. It's an explanation, not an excuse. And you hate to hear about that kind of stuff. And I certainly hope he was never that way. It just sounds like he quietly struggled with stuff. And I think that's a pretty good lesson about seeking therapy and opening up about stuff, even if it is really hard, because holding on to those things typically isn't all that healthy. I mean, all of you do whatever you want. I'm not a therapist. I have no right to tell you what to do, but I will just say that holding on to these heartbreaking secrets isn't a good way to get over them. Like, pushing them to the back of your mind, they're still there, festering, and it's not dealing with them. So, I don't know. I guess I just wanted to say that. I hope this person's doing all right after finding all that out. Story 1. My 22 female girlfriend is disappointed with my size 25 male after we met. We are in a long-distance relationship. We met up in October, and when we were together, we were about to have intercourse, but didn't bring a condoms with me, so we ended up not doing it. Please, I know, I should have prepared. The problem I have is what happened after we met. I had shown her my size before we met many times, and after we met, we didn't talk about intercourse at all anymore, so I wondered what caused her disappointment. We always showered together, and she even tried to put it in. When I called her about it today why we don't do that anymore, I asked if she was disappointed with my size, and she said yes. Okay, hurted, but I continued to ask more. She told me she wasn't a traditional girl, but now she says she wants to wait for intercourse until after marriage. I know she is Christian, but said she doesn't respect her religion before we met, and also I see her liking things like funny men really have the biggest D's on Instagram, and also like acts innocent but is thinking about writing the F out of you. After asking more, she said she doesn't want to talk about it at all anymore. She does want to meet me again, but I'm not sure if I should. She says she loves me, but so many red flags. There's a lot going on. I mean, on one hand, she is allowed to change her mind on her religion and decide if she wants to wait or not. People's minds will change as they do stuff, and that's fine. Even if you were having intercourse and then she said, no, I want to stop until marriage for my religion, I'm not comfortable, that's okay. But that's kind of where I'm not really, I don't know. Judging someone for their size, there's stuff that I think, people who, are below average in size and stuff can still do to have an enjoyable intercourse life. But it takes, communication with a partner and stuff like that. I'm sure there's stuff online to help with that kind of stuff. But I don't know, the fact that she's also like, yeah, your size is a problem, that's not great and healthy, and I don't, if you've asked her before and you're sharing pictures, I don't know. I don't feel great that she's doing that, and I would say, if she says she loves you, do feel free to meet again, but, I mean, start a conversation, and if she's like, nope, I don't want to talk about it anymore, that's a red flag. That's not great. Relationships need communication, and if there is a problem with your intimate compatibility, she can't just say, no, I don't want to talk about it anymore. No, something needs to get talked about eventually, so yeah, if she refuses to keep talking, then I would probably refuse to keep seeing her. Story 2. My girlfriend has a gift, and I'm terrified. Okay, this sounds insane, but I don't know anymore. I, 27 male, have known my girlfriend, 24, for around 7 years, and she's always been a bit odd. Not in a bad way, but she's very empathetic and too kind for her own good. She also has chronic depression/anxiety and bipolar disorder. A few months into us dating, she would do this thing where she would text me to hydrate, eat, stretch, relax my muscles. I didn't think much of it, honestly, those are very common things people forget to do. Then she got more specific, example being, hey, pop your left shoulder or it'll start to hurt later tonight. Or she would buy me food I was craving without me asking, or send me reassurance when I was feeling low. Even those, however, I was able to brush off with ease, what nearly 30-year-old doesn't have aches and pains, It was like that for months, and occasionally I'd ask her how she knew I hadn't hydrated all day, or how she knew I wanted one of my cravings, to which she would always respond with, it's a gift, cool, huh? I figured she was bluffing and kept getting lucky. Now I don't think that's the case. Last week, she called off work and rushed over. I asked her why she felt the need to do that, and she said she felt compelled. An hour later, we got the news a family member I was close to passed. Here, I have to note, she is close with my parents, but they don't talk outside of family gatherings, so there's no way she would have known prior to the call. She stayed by my side the rest of the week and confided in me that she was a different religion than I am. She's a Hellenistic pagan and I'm a Baptist, and that she got the urge to call off work when she was cleaning up her altar. I was a bit shaken up, but ultimately I was just glad she was there with me. This weekend, we went to visit her dad. She suggested it's because he lives outside of a tourist trap town and we could use the vacation. I agreed, and it was a fantastic trip. On the ride there, she confessed she doesn't like my job because it's dangerous. It wouldn't be, and I don't think it is at any of the other shops, but we simply don't have the equipment to do what we claim we can, so we have to jerry-rig quite a bit. I explained this to her, and she just reiterates she wants me to be careful. I promised I would be, and she dropped it. I tried my best to not tell her about how sketchy it gets sometimes, or that we actually had a workplace incident recently, but the way she talked, it felt like she knew. Throughout the drive from her dad's to the town, the drive was anxiety-inducing. We were talking about heavy rain plus bad drivers, and my car was acting up, yet my very usually anxious girlfriend with car wreck trauma was unfazed. When I inquired about it at dinner, she said she knew we wouldn't wreck it. I asked how she could possibly know that, and she said, I have a gift, and I should just trust her on this. It was hard, but I did my best. When I was dropping her off, she warned me to be on the lookout for deer and to drive safely. Two somewhat normal statements given where we live, but I didn't think it meant, hey, there's gonna be a deer in the middle of the road, so don't hit it. It was just the icing on the cake, and I still don't get this gift. The next morning, she's gushing about how much she liked our weekend and how much she loved spending time with me, how we need to do it again, blah, blah, blah. She then mentions how I need to be careful on the drive there. Lo and behold, there was a wreck on my commute. I got to witness it. At lunch, she asks if I'm okay, which, I kind of had just gotten a cut on my arm. I'm a mechanic, so it's common. I asked her if she could stop being so weird and to just chill because life is being weird and I'm not feeling it. She said, okay, but how do you think I feel? I'm just stuck like this. I apologized, and she agreed she would chill and told me she didn't mean to scare me, but now I'm super weirded out by her. Alright, I'm not going to say that this is what's happening, but a lot of times with people like this who predict things, you don't realize just how much they're predicting, and you're only remembering the times when they happen to be right. And your brain is just erasing all the times that they're wrong because that's not remarkable. That's just nothing. And so your brain, crumple, toss it away, whatever. But every time they're right, now that, your brain's like, wow, how did they get that right? So you hang on to that stuff. And that is a possibility. It sounds like she's getting a lot of very weirdly specific stuff right. So that is, quite a bit, but, I don't know. I'm still not 100% convinced, and if everything she's doing with it seems to be in order to help you, if she does have a gift, and who am I to say that she doesn't, but if she does, it seems to be good, so, count yourself lucky? Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.